So I said that it's about to be the 60th anniversary. That means 1966 was the beginning, the foundation of the order of Interbeing. At that time, the war in Vietnam was very destructive. Many people, lives destroyed, livelihood destroyed, and not much hope for the end of the war. And our teacher, Thầy Nhất Hạnh, had to do something in order to give people hope, in order to help the situation. But in fact, doing something in Vietnam is not enough, because the root of the war is not really in Vietnam. It's in the United States. So that is why not long after founding the School of Youth for Social Services and the Order of Interbeing, our teacher had to go to the United States to wake people up in the United States so that they would be able to call for peace there. The School of Youth for Social Service was founded in 1965. And as we said, it was the way to give hope, inspiration to the young people, to let them know that they could do something, because that is a real block when we feel we cannot do anything. And the School of Youth for Social Service was part of the Van Han University, the university which Thầy and some others founded in order to be able to renew Buddhism. And Thầy talked about engaged Buddhism, a Buddhism which is engaged in the world. That is, we have to do something. And the School of Youth for Social Service would train themselves to be able to go to the villages that had been bombed and help rebuild them. Or go to the very poor villages in the Cao Nguyên, in the hills, the hills in the center of Vietnam. And help the village people to have a school in methods of agriculture, methods of sanitation, to have a clinic and so on, without relying on the government. It's very important that the School of Youth for Social Service did not have to rely on the government. And the young people were were completely volunteers. Those who taught them in the School of Youth for Social Service were also volunteers, because the main thing was that for them to be able to feel that they could do something. And one time when they were in the village helping the villagers to set up a school, one woman, a villager, came and asked the young people, who's paying you? Who's paying you to do this? Is the government paying you? And he said, no one paying us, we are volunteers. Công quả, that is volunteer. It means that it's the kind of phrase you use when you come to the temple and you offer your services in the temple. So the woman said, but this is not a temple. And the young man replied, it's true, it's not a temple, but now we have to bring the Buddha outside of the temple in order to help. So at that time, our teacher saw how important it is to renew Buddhism, to make Buddhism really meaningful for the life of the people. It's not like something in a museum. Like you go to the museum and you look at things that have nothing to do much with your everyday life. And sometimes Buddhism can become like that. It doesn't have much to do with your daily life. So once you have the School of Youth for Social Services, you also need a spiritual path at the same time. And the spiritual path is provided by the mindfulness trainings, we call them, of the order of Interbeing. And it was in 1965 that our teacher, first formulated what we call the 14 mindfulness trainings. I don't know if you're aware, but maybe the Lion's Roar magazine, I don't know if any of you read that magazine, but in the recent issue, they publish I don't know if it's the whole speech, but the speech that Bhikkhu Bodhi gave, the keynote address that Bhikkhu Bodhi gave to the Vesak gathering, Vesak at the beginning of May, which was in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh Ville in Vietnam. And in that address, Bhikkhu Bodhi talked about moral nihilism. I don't know how you translate into Vietnamese. Right? How do we translate moral nihilism into Vietnamese? Rather đô lượng. No, moral, ethical, đạo đức. Đạo đức, nihilism. Suy đồi hả? Yeah, thank you, brother. I think you know what that means. It means that a complete lack of ethics. No ethics. And we need a global ethic. And the 14 mindfulness trainings represent the Buddhist vision for a global ethic. And in his speech, Bhikkhu Bodhi said that if we want an epicenter for moral nihilism, we only have to look at Gaza, where there's no... There are certain ethics that when you wage war, although war cannot be something ethical, but there are certain ethics that after World War II, they laid down what is allowable in times of war, like not targeting civilians and things like that. Not bombing hospitals and so on. But this kind of ethics has completely disappeared in modern warfare. So that is our task, that is our challenge, is how to make an ethical life more universal, not just something that we, a small group of us, are doing. And that is why we need a global ethic. And the global ethic has to be an ethic which is not rules and regulations, which is not governed by the fact if you don't do this, you will be punished by God or something like that. But an ethic that comes from our heart, comes from our awareness. And that is what the 14 mindfulness trainings are helping us to do, to develop that ethic within us so that we can bring it into the world and so that other people can be inspired. You're not doing this because somebody told you you have to do this. You're doing this because you know that it's the only way to resolve the suffering that you see around you. So the order of interbeing is the English title of the order. Has a different name in Vietnamese. This is the Vietnamese name. What is the Sino-Vietnamese name? Yeah. It's made up of two words, and which in Vietnamese is pronounced as Tiếp. Yeah. So if you look at this word, you take this away, you take this first bit away, you see that this means to see. It means to see. So sometimes you can, yeah. So we need to understand a little bit the meaning of this word, these words. Tiếp has three meanings, and hearing has 3 or 4 meanings. So it's quite rich. And in English we call the order of interbeing. But this doesn't exactly mean interbeing. So the first meaning of Tiếp is to receive something. What do you receive? You receive from your ancestors. You receive your body from your ancestors, your blood ancestors, and from your spiritual ancestors, you receive the spiritual life. And our spiritual ancestors want to do maybe just one thing. They want to transmit the spiritual life to us, to whoever is there. And that our teacher Thầy said that is all Thầy does. Everything that Thầy does is to transmit the spiritual life. But however much Thầy transmit the spiritual life, if we don't receive it, then the transmission cannot take place. So our part is to receive our spiritual path from our spiritual ancestors as a guide, That does not mean to say that we don't have the capacity to realize the truth. That capacity is in us, in each one of us. But we need someone outside to guide us back into ourselves in order to realize the truth. So that is the first meaning of tir, is to receive. And the second meaning is to be in touch. To be in touch, first of all, we have to talk about the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth, the truth of suffering. It isn't our nature to want to be in touch with suffering. Our brain is not neural pathway in that direction. But it is something we have to do for ourselves and do for our world. And then the third noble truth is the truth of the end of suffering. And it's something we also need to be in touch with. The happiness, the wonder of life, the wonders of life, the miracle of life. That is also something we have to be in touch with in order to nourish ourselves. But being in touch with the suffering is not something that we do at one particular stage in our practice. It is something that we do throughout our life. And our capacity to be in touch with suffering, it changes throughout our life. We see suffering differently at one period in our life, and we see it differently at another period in our life. Because we practice, we learn to look deeply. And the more we look, we will see the interbeing nature of suffering. Because I have enough to eat today, that is also reflected by someone else who does not have enough to eat today. Or because I have too much, then someone else in the world has too little. So we recognize that my well-being is also the ill-being of someone else. And that is why when I first formulated the 14 mindfulness trainings, is quite rather different from now. 3 of those trainings were about a practice which is called the Tri Tup. Tri means to know, and Tup means enough. To know when you have enough is very important, so you don't take more than you need. Simple living. So that is an important part of the order of interbeing. So we're talking about being in touch with the the suffering. And we learn through the practice how to be in touch with suffering. How to be in touch in such a way that it nurtures, it nourishes our compassion. Because if we are in touch with suffering in the wrong way, it will nurture our frustration, maybe our anger. So we need to know how to be in touch with suffering and not allow ourselves to be overwhelmed so that we become frustrated, we become angry. Because there's too much anger in the world, we don't want to add to it. So that is being in touch, and also to be in touch with the miracles of life, to be in touch with impermanence. Impermanence is everything is changing all the time. That is a real miracle. How things are impermanent. You look at you look at the food on your plate. You look at a tiny little pea, and you see in it the whole universe. It is a miracle that's coming to you from the cosmos. That is also the practice of being in touch with the miracles of life. In touch with your own body is a miracle. Even if it is not in good health, it is a miracle. And yeah, so these are two aspects of being in touch. And I think the other meaning we can say is to connect or to continue. To connect. Not to cut ourselves off. To be able to connect with others. Connect in such a way that together we can do something. We cannot do it on our own. I think when you practice Dharma sharing, it's a real opportunity to connect. You look at everyone who's sitting in the circle with you. And you look at them deeply. Maybe just by looking at the way they sit, the way they look, you can see. You can see how they suffer. You can see their happiness. And you don't have to say anything to connect like that. Obviously, in the Dharma sharing, you will share. But when you look around at everyone, you don't have to share something in order to be able to feel that person. And so we always, in our retreat, we always need to have time of silence, where we can connect in a way that is beyond words. So that is the meaning of tip. And then we have the meaning of hin. Sometimes just hin, to see. And these are the different, you see the word hin here, hin here, hin here. Huh? Yeah. So this is Hiền Pháp. And if you know Sanskrit, how many people know Sanskrit? Little, huh? So I will not write Devanagari, I will write English, Arabic. No, not Arabic. No. Drishta, huh? Yeah. Hiền Pháp. Hiền here means drishta. This is also keen. Keen means drishta. Drishta means something you have seen, something you see. And Dharma means the object of your mind. So it's what you can see now. It's what's manifesting now. So we can say the Drishta Dharma Sukha Viharin. Hiền Pháp lạc trú. Lạc means happy. Trú means dwelling. Drishta Dharma Sukha, happy. Vihara, dwelling. Dwelling happily, we translate in the present moment, with what is happening now. Dwelling happily with what is happening now. Yeah, this is a very important part of the practice of the order of interbeing. And it is explained in the 7th mindfulness training. And the 7th mindfulness training was not there in the original 14 mindfulness trainings. But now we have the 7th mindfulness training, which is do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. That is what our brain is always doing. Running after things that happened in the past, or worrying about things that are going to happen, and not having the capacity to be rooted. To dwell here means to be rooted in the present moment. And all our Dharma doors of breathing, mindful walking, are to anchor us in the present moment so that we can really do what is needed to be done and not do what is not needed to be done. You have to realize the truth of this for yourself. The spiritual ancestor, they tell you, learn how to breathe, follow your breathing. Learn how to walk in mindfulness. And if you don't do it, you never find out. But if you do it, you will do it in the way that it should be done. You will have a realization. Because you have freed up your, we call manovijnana, your mind consciousness, so that the wisdom that we say that we that everyone has, it can manifest. But while your mind is pursuing the past, running into the future, yet that wisdom, it cannot manifest. So you don't know what to do or what not to do. And when somebody says, look, you have to decide, you have to say, at that point you should say, no, don't push me. I'm not ready. Don't ever let someone force you to make a decision. Huh? Only when you know it comes from your intuitive wisdom, which you have been in touch with because you are truly dwelling in the present moment, dwelling peacefully in the present moment. You can say happily, you can also say peacefully. Only then can you give your answer, what we should do or what we should not do. So that is this. This is in the present moment, the object of my mind. The object of my mind is in the present moment. And this here is another meaning. It's the meaning to, here means to realize. This means the truth, the reality, and here it means to, maybe to see the truth, the reality, to realize for ourselves. It's not enough to have an idea, to think about something. It has to be realized in life. It has to be put into practice. And this is also, this here means the present, and this is the time, the generation, the time, and this is to make something like that, to make it the present time. So this is to update. So how you translate Interbeing into English, you cannot. It has so many meanings. But to make it easy, our teacher devised this word, interbeing. And the interbeing, it means that we see that our suffering is also the suffering of other people. Our happiness is the happiness of other people. The suffering of others is our suffering. The happiness of others is our happiness. So we're no longer individualism, looking for our own happiness, but looking for the happiness of others. And seeing that our own happiness is connected to the happiness of others. If your own happiness is not connected to other people's happiness, then it is not real happiness. Mm. So what are these four things here? We should have sound of the bell, huh? So any order, whether monastic or whether lay order, it needs to have like regulations, some kind of regulations. We call the charter, need to have a charter. And what are the basic spiritual foundation of the order of Interbeing? And they are mentioned as four basics, spiritual basics. And these come from the teachings of the Buddha. They are the very essence of the Buddhist teachings. So the first one is, this means to break. And this means attachment. And in English we translate as non-attachment. But non-attachment, attachment to what? Non-attachment to views. This is a very basic, important teaching of Buddhism. Non-attachment to views. And if you read the Sutta Nipata, if you read the Nghĩa Túc, you will discover that nearly all the sutras that the Buddha gave in those early days of the Buddha's ministry were about non-attachment to views. Because in India at that time, it's not that in our own time, but in India at that time there were so many views on being or non-being, or what happened to you after you die. And the people get caught in their view and they get caught in arguments with each other. And it is as if the view is become yourself. And you have to protect your view with all your might. And that is why in the first training of the 14 mindfulness trainings, we have Buddhist teachings are not doctrines to fight for, kill for, or die for. Because that is what we human beings sometimes do. We kill because of our view. And this is what was happening in Vietnam at the time when our teacher devised the 14 mindfulness trainings. That is, we don't like communism, so we have to kill people who we have to fight in order to remove communism. So ideology is something very dangerous. And it is a kind of view, drishti. Drishti is a view. Kian? This word without this is a view. Drishti. And if you look at the Noble Eightfold Path, you see that there is the first is a right view. Right view, right thinking. And there's many kinds of way you can explain what is right view. It is understanding the Four Noble Truths and so on. But in the end, right view is to be seen as no view. In other words, not to be caught in any view. To be able to listen in order to understand. To be able to let go of my view. This is why I really need to live in a community, because my view is not right view. And when you live in a community, everybody has their view. And we learn how to listen to the views of others. And we learn how to let go of our view in order to have what we call the Sangha eye. And the Sangha eye is a consensus of the view of everyone. So I have this view. Of course you have the right to have a view. You have a view. If somebody says, today we have a meeting to decide something, to decide whether to have a retreat or not. So I have a view that we don't want any more retreats, we're tired already. Yeah? Somebody else said, oh, we have to have a retreat because it helps so many people, it's so inspiring. So we both say our view and they clash, those two views clash. But if the Sangha is skillful, then out of that clash we can get another view. Yeah. We find another view. So and there are so many theories about like what happened after you die. Some people say you still exist after you die. And other people say, no, you don't exist anymore, you're nothing. And then other people say, you both exist and you don't exist, whatever that means. Other people have that view. And then other people have another view, you neither exist or not exist. There's many views about like that. And every time the Buddha was asked, or the disciples of the Buddha were asked, what does the Buddha teach? Does he teach that you exist after death or you don't exist after death? And then the disciple will think, oh, I never heard the Buddha teach any of that. Maybe I'm missing out on something. They feel they're very young in the practice. So they don't know how to answer. They say, well, I never heard my teacher teach that. And then the people who asked the question said, this monk must be very young in the practice or else he's an idiot. And then they go away unsatisfied. They want to hear a view. What is your view? I want to hear it. And then the monkey feels very bad. He goes to the Buddha and said, look, these people, they asked me that question, I couldn't answer. And the Buddha said, the Buddha, yeah, I don't think I will go into what the Buddha said, but in the end, the Buddha said, my dear disciple, you cannot find me even when I am alive. How do you expect to find me after I'm dead? It's something like that. Yeah. We cannot find somebody when they are alive. So all these views, we have to let go of. Especially ideologies. We have to let go of Buddhism. We cannot get caught in Buddhist teachings. The teachings are just this one, huh? The teachings are just being. They are just skillful means to help us. They are like a medicine. They are not the absolute truth. The absolute truth, it cannot be put into words. We cannot describe. We can only experience. So with non-attachment to views. This again is that word we see here for truth. And this is the word that means to witness for ourselves. Our practice brings us insight, and our insight is what transforms us and helps us to hand on transformation, help other people to transform. To witness, to witness. But you have to be very careful, because our perceptions, our mind and our perception, they are imperfect. I don't think any of our perceptions 100% true. Now neuroscience, they show us a lot of our perceptions, they just come from our neurons. Yeah. The color blue, we think, oh, it's a reality out there. But in fact, it's just a message to our brain saying, these light waves are too short for the eyes to receive them. So it makes up the color blue. Yeah. So anyway, our perceptions are. So when we talk about reality, we have to be a little bit careful. this word here. But when we do this, it gives rise to compassion. It gives rise to deep understanding. When some people in the United States, they like a song. It says, somebody have a realization, and they say, I was blind, but now I see. So out of that realization, I will not capture people in Africa and take them to be slaves in the United States. That is compassion come out of, and so it's called a grace. Huh? I was blind, but now I can see. So the word in Sanskrit also is like the eyes you can see. So we see something. The person we think is our enemy, we see how they suffer. And we no longer see them as an enemy. We look on them as someone who deserves our compassion. Nothing whatsoever to remove from this. Not a single thing to add. Properly realizing the true nature, when truly seen, complete liberation. These are some lines from the Mahayana Sutra. Nothing to add, nothing to take away. This is it, this one calligraphy of our teacher. Just seeing things as they are. So this also was something that in the early days of the order of Interbeing, our teacher wanted there to be 3 different ways of practicing. One was as a monastic. One was as a celibate layperson. And one was as a married layperson. And it was not easy to become a monastic in the idea about the monastic community. It wasn't easy to become a monastic. You were a lay order member for 5 years. And each of those 5 years you would attend the 3-month retreat. So you would have 5 3-month retreats. And then you would really know, do I want to be a monastic or not? Didn't have aspirants like you. That is something new. And so this is something to do with how our teachers' teachings have changed. Because in the early times, our teacher felt that to be a monastic is the easiest way to witness reality, because you have time to dedicate to meditation. You don't have to take care of your family. You don't have to go to work, and so on. But maybe as a continuation of that 5 3-month retreats, we now have the 5-year program where you can be a monastic for 5 years. And then if you like, you don't like it, or you don't want to continue it, you can go back to lay life, either celibate or as a married person. Yeah. But this is something, please look deeply into what is going to be most helpful for me in my practice, because now we have what is, before we talk about engaged Buddhism, but now we have what is called applied Buddhism. Ứng dụng á. I think we should write Buddhism with a small b. No. Now we have applied Buddhism. And this means that Buddhism enters every moment of your life. In your family, you apply Buddhism as in your family life. You apply Buddhism in your workplace. You bring that. That is possible. But it may not be easy. They used to say that the easiest place to practice is in the monastery. The second easiest place is to practice in the workplace. And the third easiest is in the family. So bear this in mind. Where is your heart? Where can you realize the teaching? And with your bodhicitta, your mind of love, your deep down desire to help the world, how can you do it? It is something we really need to look into. How can I do it? And maybe you need to come for several rains retreats in order to really feel how can I best realize my deep down desire to help the world. And it doesn't matter whatever come up as your answer to that question, to follow it through. So before you make that decision, whether to be monastic, whether to be 5-year, or whether to be a lay disciple of the Buddha, yeah, really be sure. And then when you're sure, you keep on that path. And you can be a lay order member, or you can be a monastic order member. So it doesn't mean anything. You can practice the 14 mindfulness trainings as a lay person and a monastic. Now we listen to some. So this has something to do with skillful means. How you're going to manifest in the world. to help. That is what you call a skillful means. When you talk about your practice, it may not inspire other people. The best way to inspire your family is not by talking about the practice. It is by doing the practice. And when you do the practice, you don't bring out your beads and show everybody that you are praying or whatever you do with your beads. You keep them hidden, but you follow your breathing, and you are really present for listening. You emanate a kind of peace because you have practiced, you are practicing. That is what, that is skillful means. Yeah. I teach with your way of life. And that way of life, it is not necessarily Buddhist. It doesn't have to be Buddhist. You don't have to call it a Buddhism. This is called suitability or adaptability, adapting to. And this is circumstances. So when the Buddha taught one thing here and another thing there. And sometimes people didn't understand. So often people would ask the Buddha, that monk or that lay person who just died, where have they gone? Yeah, are they in the 33rd heaven or are they in one of the hells or something like that? Where are they? Yeah. And sometimes the Buddha would reply, like he would say, Anathapindika is born in the 33rd heaven. And after another time, like we said before, when people ask, so what happened after death, the Buddha would say something like, you cannot find that person while they're alive. How can you find them after they're dead? So that is a different level of the teaching. Yeah. And it is what is called adapting to the circumstances. You don't necessarily say the same thing to everybody. If somebody can understand the teaching like, you cannot find me when I'm alive, so how can you find me after I'm dead? It's useful to give them that teaching, but if they don't understand, they just become more confused, then you wouldn't give that teaching. And then you talk about the 33rd heaven. Yeah. You have to also understand when the Buddha says something like that, he's been born in the 33rd heaven, that is very strong belief in India at that time that there are immortal gods and they live up in heaven, in different heavens. There are different heavens. Yeah. And everybody believe in that. And maybe it has some kind of meaning. Maybe it's based in something, some kind of reality. Like when that person died, they're very, very peaceful. And sometimes when you accompany someone who's dying, or you pray for someone who has died, you have a feeling inside. Yeah, you have a feeling, oh, they're very peaceful. And they are enjoying this kind of enjoyment. People I know well, when they die, I have that feeling. And I don't think about it intellectually, but I just feel it. Oh, there's that person enjoying this. Anyway, that is another matter. But when the Buddha said that, it had some meaning. But doesn't mean to say that up in the sky, up there, we all know that now, we have aeroplanes, that or we have rockets going to the moon or something. Astronaut. That there is a heaven up there, doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean the Buddha believed that. So that is adapting to the circumstances. You need to understand, when you give a talk, you need to understand the people you are talking to. You don't give the same talk everywhere you go. So now you understand all these words, huh? Thank you, whoever wrote on the board for me. Now we listen to the sound of the bell. So now I ask you have any question you'd like to ask? Yeah.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you very much for your teaching, sister. I wonder what the interbeing in Sanskrit, because I don't know Sanskrit, but I know Pali, so I'm probably gonna understand.
Sahabu, being together.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah.
Could you be more precise on that update thing? Because I think I didn't really understand that update.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, this has to do with our, what we call our regulations, our precepts, our mindfulness trainings. That the society is always changing, is always developing. And when the Buddha was nearing the end of his life on earth, he said to his attendant Ananda, you can, according to the culture, according to the times, you should be flexible with the precepts. You can add or you can take away. So it's very important that we don't get caught in precepts that no longer have anything to do with our daily life, and that we add precepts when we have new things arise. So in our own time we have the internet, which although it can bring many benefits, it also can do a huge amount of harm. So we need to bring ethics into that field of the internet. Things that were never there in the time of the Buddha. So we update our ethics in order to be in tune with our society. What society needs in the way of ethics, we have to update, and that is true of the moral code, the ethical code of the monastic. We as monastics, we also part of society, so we cannot keep the same precept without any updating from the time of the Buddha. But the spirit is always the same.
Thank you, sister.
Yeah, and the same with the way we bring the teachings into the world. We cannot teach the same way as the Buddhism was taught in the time of the Buddha. We have to find new Dharma doors to bring into the world. Yeah. We do beginning anew quite differently from the way they did in the time of the Buddha. Yeah. Who has the microphone? Yeah.
Dear sister, thank you. If I remember correctly, one of the articles of the Charter states that the order of Interbeing does not accept the systematic arrangements of the Buddhist
Yeah, that is a
teachings.
mistranslation. We have to put that right. Thank you for bringing that up. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that the order of Interbeing doesn't confide itself to one systematic, one system of Buddhist, the way they've been handed down, like the Abhidharma. But it doesn't mean it doesn't accept the Buddhist teachings. Yeah, that is a bad translation. I'm sorry about that. It just means that the order of Interbeing doesn't say, look, we only practice according to the Pali Abhidharma or something like that. Or we only practice according to the Yogacara teaching, or we only practice. Yeah, we take what is the skillful means we can take from any school of Buddhism.
Thank you very much for the wonderful talk. I am interested in whether, I don't know how to pronounce this correctly, but is it the hien part?
Yeah.
I'm very interested as to how the four aspects maybe are. So how do they interrelate?
Which four aspects, huh? These four here?
Yes.
Yes. So we can say that these ones, the adapting to circumstances and skillful means, they are the way that we bring our non-attachment to views and our witnessing of reality into the world, into our relationships. So the skillful means is in your family, how you interact. Thanks to the I think we can have little witnesses we can witness reality in our daily life every day, some little thing we notice. And our non-attachment to view. We need to tuking, we need to realize these things in the circumstances that we are in, and use the skillful means in order we don't just keep our non-attachment to views and our witness of reality to ourselves. We bring it into the world, but we have to do it in a way that is skillful, that is meaningful for people. Yeah. And so they go together.
Thank you.
When you want to realize something in the world, you have to use these two. But you have to have something you're going to realize, and that is these two. I know. Who else?
Miriam.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, sister. I have a question around the updating part as well, because I see that in our tradition we are both open to innovation and updating and looking into that, and at the same time want to honor and respect and receive the teachings as they were passed on to us. How to discern well what to do when, and can we honor both at the same time? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very good question. That is, I think we can only do this as a Sangha. We cannot do as an individual. So it is, both has its drawbacks. Yeah. Like when we wanted to update the 3rd mindfulness training and the 14th mindfulness training, it took a long time. And because now our order of interbeing is global, and that is the only way. I think we just have to do it. I cannot. So one person, you say that person have a lot of wisdom, therefore they can update the precepts. We cannot do that. We don't have that person. Yeah. So yes, and then there are always in the Sangha, there are conservatives and there are progressives. That is something we have to accept. So you may see, what am I on? A bit leaning a conservative or progressive. Huh? But that is also good, because when we do things together as a Sangha, we have the conservative and progressive, they may clash. But out of that, there's something can bloom. And there are many things that we don't have to do again, because we have received from our ancestral teachers. So, like with the Buddha, he went through many years of self-mortification. But it doesn't mean to say that all the Buddha's disciples have to, before he became enlightened, all the Buddha's disciples have to go through self-mortification in order to realize that self-mortification doesn't work. So the Buddha went through that and then said, and in our own teacher went through a tremendous amount of suffering. But because of that, is able to give us Dharma doors, that we don't have to go through all that suffering in order to be able to practice, in order to be able to be compassionate and understanding. So that is something we receive. It's like in science, you don't have to go do all the experiments that have already been done by past scientists and things that you know. You have to build on that. Right, one more question, then I think we better finish.
Thank you very much for the talk. Thank you very much for the talk, sister. My question is about, I was quite touched when you were speaking about like waiting and listening to yourself and your aspiration and waiting to be sure. And I was wondering, I think it can be hard to do that sometimes because the world, I think, like forces you to be sure quickly. Like if you want to like find a flat, you need to know like on the day, or like if you want to do a course, you need to know like a year in advance. And like I think the world forces you to make decisions like quickly and it's not so easy to sit and be patient. And I wonder if you had any advice about how to do that.
Well, I'm not in position for buying a flat at the moment. So. Really think what I would do in that situation, I cannot think. I think that when we have to work with the causes and conditions that are available, and when the conditions are right, the external conditions, there's some kind of harmony between us and the conditions around us. And we have to, in my experience, we need to be sensitive to our harmony, to the conditions around us, in order to be able to go on the path that we really want to go on. And if we realize what is our real volition, our volition food, what is it, then I think that the conditions will somehow manifest to be in harmony with our volition food. And like we said, don't ever be pushed into making a decision. When you're not ready, you know, the mindfulness is to know, I'm not ready. And when the conditions are right, when your insight into your volition food is right, then everything will come about in a way that is helpful for you and helpful for the world. Because the world also is a part of our decision. So we listen to 3 sounds of the bell in order to end.